The FIFA World Cup is designed to crown the best team on earth. The strongest nations arrive. The most talented players compete. The deepest squads battle through pressure, expectation, and history. In theory, the strongest should win. And most of the time, they do. But not always. Because every so often, football produces something extraordinary. A result so unlikely that it shocks the world. A moment that seems impossible before kickoff, yet becomes unforgettable afterward. The underdog defeats the favorite, the giant falls, and history changes forever. Tonight we investigate the greatest World Cup upsets ever witnessed. Not merely surprising victories, but moments that transformed football itself. Because the World Cup has taught a lesson repeatedly throughout history. No team is unbeatable. Chapter 1. Why upsets fascinate us. Human beings love stories about greatness, but they love stories about impossible victories even more. The underdog speaks to something universal. Most people are not favorites. Most people are not powerful. Most people understand what it feels like to face overwhelming odds. That is why upsets resonate far beyond football. They become symbols, proof that outcomes are never guaranteed, proof that giants can fall, proof that history is not predetermined. Every World Cup contains favorites, but the tournament's magic often emerges from the unexpected. Chapter 2. North Korea versus Italy, 1966. In 1966, Italy arrived with prestige, history, experience, expectation. North Korea arrived with almost none of those things. Few observers believed they had any chance. Most expected a routine Italian victory. Instead, football witnessed one of its earliest shocks. North Korea defeated Italy. One goal, one result. One moment that stunned the football world. The upset became legendary because it revealed a truth that would echo through future tournaments. The badge on a shirt does not score goals. Matches must still be played. Chapter 3. Cameroon versus Argentina, 1990. Argentina entered the tournament as defending champions. They possessed Diego Maradona. They possessed global respect. They possessed the pressure and confidence that accompany greatness. Cameroon entered as outsiders. Few expected them to challenge the reigning champions. Then came opening night. The world watched, and Cameroon won. The result shocked commentators. It shocked supporters. It shocked Argentina. But more importantly, it changed perceptions. African football was no longer simply participating. It was competing. Chapter 4. Senegal versus France, 2002. France entered the 2002 World Cup as defending champions, world champions, European champions, favorites. Senegal entered its first World Cup. The gap appeared enormous. Yet football does not care about reputation. On opening day, Senegal defeated France. The champions were beaten. The world was stunned. And what appeared to be a single upset soon became something larger. France would eventually leave the tournament in the group stage, without scoring a goal. One upset became the beginning of a collapse. Chapter 5. Saudi Arabia versus Argentina, 2022. By 2022, Argentina appeared unstoppable. They arrived with an extraordinary unbeaten streak. Many believed Lionel Messi's final World Cup journey had begun perfectly. Then Saudi Arabia changed the script. Argentina took the lead. The outcome seemed inevitable, but football rarely follows expectations. Saudi Arabia scored, then scored again. The stadium erupted. The football world froze. One of the biggest favorites in the tournament had fallen. And yet something fascinating happened afterward. Argentina recovered. They adapted. They survived, and eventually won the World Cup. The upset became even more remarkable because it failed to destroy the champion's journey. Chapter 6. Germany versus South Korea, 2018. Germany entered the 2018 World Cup as defending champions. One of football's most successful nations, a model of consistency. South Korea needed a miracle. What followed became one of the most dramatic endings in World Cup history. As time expired, South Korea scored, then scored again. Germany was eliminated. The champions were gone. The football world struggled to process what had happened. The upset was not merely a defeat, it was the collapse of a giant. Chapter 7. The Anatomy of an Upset. When people discuss upsets, they often search for a single explanation. Luck, a mistake, a red card, a great goal. But reality is usually more complicated. Upsets emerge from many factors: confidence, preparation, belief, tactics, momentum, pressure, complacency, fear. The favorite often carries invisible burdens. The underdog often carries invisible freedom. And sometimes that difference matters more than talent. Chapter 8. Why giants become vulnerable. The strongest teams rarely expect to lose. That confidence can become dangerous. Success creates expectations. Expectations create pressure. Pressure changes behavior. The favorite begins worrying about failure. The underdog focuses on opportunity. One team protects, the other attacks. One fears embarrassment, the other fears nothing. And when margins are small, psychology can become decisive. Football is played with feet, but many matches are decided in the mind. Chapter 9. The upsets we never forget. Most World Cup matches disappear into history, but upsets survive. People remember where they were, what they felt, how impossible it seemed, because upsets create emotional shock. The world suddenly realizes that certainty was an illusion, that predictions are fragile, that probability is not destiny. These moments become part of football folklore, retold for generations, studied by analysts, celebrated by supporters, feared by favorites. Chapter 10. What upsets reveal about human nature. Perhaps the greatest reason we love upsets has nothing to do with football. It has to do with ourselves. Upsets challenge assumptions. They challenge hierarchy. They challenge inevitability. They remind us that powerful systems are not invincible, that dominant institutions can fall, that history can change direction unexpectedly. The World Cup merely compresses these truths into 90 minutes, which is why every tournament produces hope. Every underdog believes, every giant worries, and every supporter watches knowing something extraordinary might happen. Because somewhere in football history lies a timeless lesson. The impossible remains impossible until it happens. The greatest World Cup upsets are not simply football matches. They are stories. Stories of belief defeating expectation. Stories of courage defeating reputation. Stories of possibility defeating probability. And perhaps that is why billions continue watching. Because every World Cup begins with predictions, but it ends with reality. And reality has a habit of surprising everyone.